Hello everybody. So at this point I've owned this vehicle for give or take 3 weeks, and I drive it every day, and I think it's time to do a full review knowing what I know now about the vehicle, and I guess just releasing some more content. And the funny thing is I picked a day where I thought it would be really nobody at the store. This is our local Menards, and we parked really far, my son and I, because we were really enthralled by this machine. And right as we checked out this bulldozer, somebody parked a Forester pretty much right next to us. So thankfully at least they skipped a spot, so I could at least focus on this. All right, anyway, so here's a kind of like a quick overview on this thing. So in case if you haven't been following, I used to own a 2006 Lincoln Town Car. It was getting kind of old, it was getting kind of updated and needed some repairs, and my willingness to do those repairs were kind of going down, let's say. So I decided that I needed a different car. Now, I wasn't necessarily seeking a 2020 Ford Fusion Hybrid, but this vehicle used to be owned by my company that I currently work for, and the employee who used to drive it as a company vehicle decided to leave the company, vacating this vehicle, and I seized the opportunity. So I ended up purchasing it for the trade-in price, and that trade-in price was significantly less than if I would have bought it at a dealership, or even if I would have bought it from a private party. So I decided, you know what, it's either now or never. So here we go. I pulled the trigger. I sold my 2006 Town Car to a dealership for $2,000. They listed it on their website for outrageous amounts of money. Then they recently dropped that price, and it's still for sale as of the filming of this video, which happens to be December 24th, 2023 on a Sunday. So obviously dealerships are closed. It's a holiday. They will be closed tomorrow too, I believe. So here's the story. So I've been driving this vehicle, and I got a lot to share. I will make some videos as far as what I like, what I don't like about it, but in this case this is just an overview for a Ford Fusion. Now, in general, Ford Fusion has been around for many years. It survived many different updates and iterations, and the looks and the style. And when it first came out, I didn't really care about it, to be honest with you. The first styling was kind of a Gillette. You got the three blades. Plus, they had a Mercury version, which was like 95% the same. And they had the Lincoln version, which I think, I'll post all the pictures so you guys know what I'm talking about, in case if you're not familiar with this whole line. I think it was called Lincoln Zephyr originally, then switching to an MKZ later on. And at first, I really didn't care too much about these vehicles. They were out there. They were pretty popular. Rental car companies had them. The Mercury probably was the least popular one, from what I understand. I think even the Lincoln probably outsold it. And then they had a few facelifts and redesigns and so forth. And also, it's a fusion of a Mazda platform and a Ford. I don't know the history. I don't know who did what as far as the design goes and engineering, but basically they wanted to have a little mid-size vehicle lineup. Mazda was part of the Ford's umbrella of companies at the time, and they kind of made a fusion vehicle, which, aka, here you go, the Fusion. Now, kudos for Mazda for not being anywhere close resembling this car. And I'm talking about the first generation just as much as it is this generation, right? They have a Mazda, I think they used to, it's called Mazda 6, and technically it's still called Mazda 6. But the Ford, the Mercury, and the Lincoln did look very much similar. The Lincoln had obviously more things on it and so forth. And oh, you know what? Speaking of Mercury, there's a vehicle in the distance, a Mercury Montego that's driving away, which was another one of those Ford Taurus, Mercury Montego, and the Lincoln MKS, I think. I need to look that up, but yeah, there's a Mercury driving. So anyway, they did Obviously, they redesigned it. They had a facelift and so forth. The interior, was redesigned, and then the exterior changed over the years. And then the Mazda went its own separate way. So, coming to this generation right here, Mercury's no more. So it was just the Ford Fusion and the Lincoln MKS, which, existed in the same time. At this point, they both got discontinued. Ford doesn't make any sedans anymore. Lincoln doesn't make any sedans anymore. But then these things were everywhere. They still are. There's tons of these things. So I think overall it was a pretty successful line of vehicles for Ford. And now the whole thing about the way it looks, the fact that it looks like an Aston Martin. Now, I don't think anybody will ever confuse this for an Aston Martin. And you know what? I saw a video on YouTube where somebody gave like a whole history of why Fords started looking like Aston Martins. And somebody commented, it's not an Aston Martin. It looks like an HDMI port. Which, yeah, if you look at the Aston Martin and an HDMI port, yeah, they do kind of look similar. And then Ford kind of took this inspiration, I guess, from an Aston Martin. But in general, I mean, it's an attractive look, but nobody will really confuse this vehicle for an Aston Martin, just like nobody will confuse an Aston Martin for a Ford. So, but if you look at this design, and let's say you look at this Ford Edge, which you can kind of see in the distance. Let's see. Oh, well, yeah, that's the Gillette look. I love this look way better than that 3 stripe things, 3 blades. So as far as the attractiveness, I mean, I think it looks good. It's not excessive. It's not like weird, shapes and angles and nothing. It's a good, attractive vehicle. Now, if this was a higher end trim, it would have had fog lights, which I don't have. I might have had a bit more chrome. I'm not sure. The good old titanium trim. Obviously, would have had different wheels designs and so forth. But yeah, overall, it's a nice looking vehicle. I like it. I wouldn't have necessarily, was like shopping for this vehicle. But the fact that it kind of fell in my lap, the fact that this particular one is a hybrid, and this is a base model hybrid, I think it's a good combination of what I am looking for right now. Now, they had many different trim levels, many different packages of this vehicle. At this point, by the year 2020, it was the last year they made this car. So they did a lot of interesting things on this vehicle. They gave it some interesting features on the inside. It was the last year, so they cut down a lot of the extra trim levels. I think they were just down to like a 3. They had the base version, and once again, it's the same thing whether it's a hybrid or just regular gasoline. They had the base version, which is the SE, which is exactly this one. They had the SEL, and then they had the titanium. But they had a lot of different versions in between the years and trim packages and so forth. So, I'm not going to bore you too much with this. So when I took hold of this vehicle, I took a look at it. I know this vehicle was purchased by the company no, I shouldn't say brand new, with 2,000 miles. So I have a feeling that this is like some sort of a demo. It's in good shape. I have good paperwork on it. The only thing that's a mystery to me is this. So you see this right here? I covered it up with touch-up paint. But you can kind of see a little bit, it suffered some sort of a hit. And I touched this up as well. Now this is just crap right here. That's nothing. So if you look at it from an angle, I mean, I don't know, can you really see it? But basically, if you can see it, there's a line. Oh God, I can't even see it myself. Yeah, there's some sort of a line that kind of somebody hit something. Now, I cannot find any records from the company as far as where and when and how that happened. So, like, everything seems to be in good working order. It's got a little bit of this, which also, once again, I just touched it up when I first took ownership of this vehicle. You can kind of see a little tiny crease here. Oh, sorry. All right, the Subaru Forester went away. Yeah, so I cannot find any records of this hit. So I have a feeling either it happened at a dealership or maybe it happened to the person who used to drive it and then he just decided to hide it from the boss. I am not sure. But basically, so besides this cosmetic thing, I noticed this. You see the little crease between the hood and the fender? Here, there's barely any gap. So he did shift something in this fender. And you can kind of see right here, there's a wider gap here. And then it kind of narrows it down. And then you can also kind of see this have shifted just ever so slightly. If you look at this side, the gap is a little bit wider and it's even throughout the entire car. So again, is it a major deal? No. Does it affect anything? I mean, the hood still opens. There's no paint that got chipped. So he did shift a few millimeters there and right here. So if this was a major deal, I don't know if I would have bought the car or not, but I thought about it. Look, I'm getting probably $4,000 to $5,000 off from the similar price if I would have got it from a dealership. The maintenance history's got 39,000 miles. I mean, it's got more obviously now, but before when I was buying it was like 38,800 something. I figured it's not going to affect anything. So there you go. As far as, you know, everything else goes, this being an SE, it's a base model. So you do see a lot of plastic. You don't see a lot of chrome. I do like the way it looks, like I already mentioned before. It's unique. It doesn't look like a Mazda. It doesn't technically look like a Lincoln either. And I think on a Lincoln, it's a little bit less practical because on a Lincoln, that's the roof is very much more slopey. And if this was a Lincoln, for example, it would have been a lot more expensive. Now, if it was a Lincoln, it would have got like leather seats. I think heated seats would have been standard. This one doesn't have. This one has cloth. More features, you know, but Ford is fine. I'm not really concerned. I will probably do a video comparing a Lincoln to a Ford Fusion. I especially dislike when they did the MKZ with the wings, with the hood, not the hood, the grille with the two split wings. That I think looked pretty ugly, but then they switched to, you know, the last iteration where it was, you know, decent, good looking. But I like how this looks, whether it looks like an Aston Martin or not. Yeah, so that's kind of where it is. You know, no sunroof on this one. You know, decent size, so we can kind of see here, which we will jump inside. But, you know, it's a nice mid-size, kind of, you know, not super spacious. But for the two car seats, I love the fact that it has vents in the back. You know, cloth. I don't have to put a towel, you know, being afraid to scuff it up or anything like that. You know, the doors open up quite wide, which having kids and child seats, you know, makes it decent. Let's see. I guess, you know, now that I'm kind of thinking, I will split this video up in two different parts because I know I'm already kind of 13, almost 14 minutes in. And I haven't even been to the inside, so I guess, yeah, I'll post it as a part one. Let's look under the hood. So opening this up, there you go. Yeah, you can kind of see when I pop the hood, it pops. I mean, there's no paint. Well, I guess I could open it up from here. Let's see. Yeah, there's a little latch. There you go. Right there. Let me put up the hood prop. All right. Yeah, so no struts, no nothing. Once again, maybe on a higher trim version it would have happened, but pretty basic setup you have here. I was kind of afraid there's going to be some paint missing, but no, I mean, it doesn't look like. It looks like a little dirt, but the paint seems to be intact. I also looked like right here. It doesn't look like it was ever painted. So yes, it suffered a little hit. How, why, I have no idea. But again, it seems to function just fine. I wiped it down in one of my previous videos where we changed the filter here. You can kind of see there's a little dirt left, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. This being a hybrid, you have obviously the gasoline component and the hybrid component. There's a sticker here which we cleared, you can kind of see everything, what kind of coolant it has, what everything else of this one has. So I don't know if it ever had a 3 liter. Not 100% sure, but it does have a 2.0 liter. I'll put the the stats on the screen. I don't remember these things anymore, to be honest with you. Here's a few interesting things. Okay, so it has electrical steering, so which is fine. I don't have to put any kind of steering fluid. Brake fluid, you have the 2 coolants, which I mentioned before. I never had a car with 2 coolants before. The battery sits in the trunk, which might create a problem, but it does have jump points here. The stuff that I really love about this car is the fact that they put this netting, this mesh thing, to do exactly what the Town Car could not achieve, which is to catch all these little fuzzies, to catch all these little leaves, so they don't clog up the air intake, and then they don't cause the internal flooding, which Town Cars are famous for. Same thing like all the Fords and stuff and the Mercurys. So by 2020, thank God, somebody finally realized that, hey, we got a problem. Leaves keep clogging crap up. Let's do something about it. And luckily, at this point, I don't have to worry about it. Now, there's some stuff in the wipers there. I can't really reach it. It's pretty nasty. When I first got this car, it had a bunch of crap clogged up. I took it to one of those $3 car wash with a free vacuum, and I vacuumed as much of this crap up. Obviously, some keeps falling. But also, the fact that we're having like 56 degrees on a December 24th, which is weird. You still got green grass over there. You have a huge snowplow with a patch of green grass, and you can kind of see everything is kind of green. So crap keeps falling down. But yeah, you still got a bunch of, the little stickers here, some stamping. Everything is in great shape, which, once again, it was serviced by the company I work for. I've been with the company for a couple years. I took care of this car for 2 out of the 4 years of its existence. So I know kind of what it's got and what it doesn't got. Luckily for this, and I'll mention this, I'll make another video, what I love about this car and what I don't. Look, the headlights, if I ever need to replace them, which I'm sure I will, I can just pull these things, and the bulb is right here. I don't have to remove this entire housing, I don't think. So that's this underneath the hood. The whole thing about how it shuts off the gasoline engine and turns on the electrical component of it, yeah, I mean, it's great. It's got good gas mileage. It doesn't ride like the Town Car does, but none of these cars do, so it's all right. All right, so let's close the hood. All right, moving to the back, and this will we'll wrap this up for part 1. All right, you got our key, which is huge, by the way. Why did they have to make such a huge freaking key? I don't know. So click it twice. All right, no power. The good old-fashioned manual. Here's our trunk. Obviously nowhere near the size of a Town Car, but it doesn't have to be. I mentioned this many times in a lot of my different videos. I think the Town Car really overdid it on the trunk. We love it. We love it for it. But at the same time, for your everyday 99%, even with this hump where the battery lives, this is plenty of space. I got all my crap, all my de-icer, which I've used a couple times this season, my fluids, which I just transferred from the Town Car. This net I purchased on Amazon because it did not come with anything. I don't know if the net was ever part of this car's packaging or not, but I bought just a generic net. I put like eggs and stuff in there that, when I go shopping. But yeah, you can see my air compressor, which luckily I don't need to use on this car. We also patched up my wife's Forester. It had a tire leak, so now I don't need to bust it out every week or so. It's got the famous, release handle here. You can release the rear seats, so you have a little pass-through right there. If I ever need it, got a nice light. This is what I am a little bit concerned when the time comes. I don't know if this battery will fit through this little opening when it's time to change it. I'll definitely make a video on that. Plus, so this is interesting. You got this release right here because it's got a button. So see, if you push it, it pops this. So even though, you know, they still have a button inside to release it, they are putting in a backup because they're still not sure if it will ever, maybe someday it will work. There you go. So a little lockout thing. All right, child is in the way. What else we got here? Oh, you got a single exhaust, which is somewhere down there. There you go. Got the backup sensor, and what's interesting about this one is that it has a sonar, plus it's got the audio. So it's got the backup camera, which is, you know, was mandated I think at this point. Plus it's got plus the button to release it if the car's unlocked, the trunk, and it's got the sensor. So it's got both kind of things. So it's got what the town car had plus the camera. As far as the rust, you know, this is kind of interesting for me. I am not sure if it has any rust. Honestly, I didn't look when I got the car because I figured for a 4-year-old car, let's see, I don't know, I can't see anything, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah, whether it has rust or not, I'm not sure. It probably does. I doubt that it was rust proofed or anything like that, or sprayed with anything. But it's, again, at this point, I just want to drive. I don't want to go crazy. You know, I don't, you know, it's not like I don't like this car. I do, but I'm not gonna go nuts on this car. This, you know, the best I could describe it is, if you guys remember the scene from Goodfellas, where Ray Liotta's character, you know, kind of gave up his friends at the end of it, and he was put in the witness protection program, where he's like, now you just feel like you're average person. You're not special anymore, where he lives like an average life and he's not a good fellow anymore. That's kind of me, you know. The glorious days are over. Yeah, so yeah, the glorious days of driving a town car is over. This is just my everyday thing. I will love it. I will take care of it. But yeah, I'm not gonna go crazy and doing the leather treatment on the inside. Well, this one doesn't have leather, but you get the idea. I'm not gonna go nuts. This is just my everyday driver. I will take good care of it. I will change the fluids. It will need probably a new set of tires by next year. But what I will do the next oil change is I will swap the rears with the fronts, because kind of like on the rental car lot, nobody ever does tire rotations. So the front tires are worn pretty well, but they're not unsafe. So yeah, you got some decent. The back ones are much better. So I'll do the swap. It doesn't need an oil change for like the next 5,000 miles or so. This thing does have one of these automated things that tell you when it needs an oil change. So yeah, it definitely doesn't need an oil change every 3,000 miles, because the gasoline engine doesn't really, you know, work that much. Yeah, speaking of which, here's the back, the rear tires. Yeah, they're definitely more meaty, so I will do the swap. It's got actually new brake pads and rotors right around July, for when the previous employee was still with us. So I know I got good brakes. Plus it had like the oil change, the filter change, just not that in-cabin filter like I suggested. And yeah, so that's the outside, kind of the exterior review of this vehicle. I can talk about it for much longer, but overall, yeah, good looking. Not a town car. Looks different. Acts different. Drives definitely different. You get different emotions from driving this vehicle than a town car. You know, one will not replace the other. Gets great gas mileage. Now, it doesn't have the best gas mileage in class, because, you know, there's other Prius. Obviously, it's not a plug-in, which, by the way, this thing had a plug-in version. Yeah, I mean, no real complaints. Everything works. But once again, we'll make a video about that as far as what the experience is like. And yeah, so far so good. I don't have any regrets, honestly, guys. Yeah, the town car had its moment for 4 years, but the time came where it's just like I made a decision where it's like, look, I could have taken the $16,500 that this car ended up costing me, quote unquote, out the door. I could have dumped it in the town car and made it a cream puff. But it would not have been a cream puff that would have increased in value by $16,500. It would have still been an old, rusty town car that, yeah, I could have fixed a lot of the issues and probably had some money left over. But I just did not feel like I wanted it to do that, honestly. I wanted something different, something modern. It's got a lot of cool features, which I will talk about in my part 2. And we'll see you around, everybody.